What's going on, drivers? This is Young Diesel, and today we need to talk about something that just got exposed in California that affects every single one of us out here on the road. Now, before we get into this, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to show you isn't just some administrative error. This isn't paperwork getting lost. This is 17,000 commercial drivers who just had their entire livelihood yanked out from under them because the state of California got caught breaking federal law. And I got the documents right here. The United States Department of Transportation just dropped a bombshell on California. November 12th, 2025, the federal government is telling California you have 60 days to cancel 17,000 non-domiciled CDLs, or we're pulling $160 million in federal funding. Now let me break down what that means for those of us who actually run freight for a living. A non-domiciled CDL is issued to drivers who live in another country, usually Mexico or Canada, but work in the United States. These drivers aren't residents. They're foreign nationals operating commercial vehicles on American highways with licenses that California issued them. Here's where it gets interesting. The federal audit didn't just find a few mistakes. They sampled California's program. Out of roughly 62,000 non-domiciled CDL holders in California, they checked a sample. 26% failed to meet federal requirements. 26%. That's 1 in 4 licenses that shouldn't exist. We're talking about 16,000 drivers minimum who got licenses they weren't qualified for under federal law. And the audit found something even more disturbing. In at least 3 cases, the California DMV couldn't even provide documentation that they verified lawful presence before issuing the CDL. They couldn't prove they checked. Let that sink in. Now, I want you to think about what you had to go through to get your CDL. You had to provide your birth certificate or passport. You had to prove residency. You had to pass a written test. You had to do a pre-trip inspection in front of an examiner who was looking for any reason to fail you. You had to execute a perfect backing maneuver. You had to drive that truck through traffic while someone sat next to you with a clipboard marking down every little thing you did wrong. And if you made too many mistakes, you failed and you had to come back and pay again. You went through all of that because the system told you those standards matter. Those standards keep everyone safe. Those standards maintain the integrity of the CDL program. But California just admitted they bypassed all of that for 17,000 foreign drivers. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy said it plain. California admitted to illegally issuing these licenses. Not allegedly, not maybe, admitted. The state admitted it broke federal law and issued CDLs to people who didn't meet the requirements. And this isn't California's first rodeo with this issue. Back in October, the DOT already withheld $41 million from California for not following English proficiency standards. That's a whole separate violation. California has been playing fast and loose with CDL requirements for a while now, and the feds finally had enough. Let me read you what the audit actually found, because this is important. Systemic policy, procedural, and programming errors in California's CDL program. Systemic. That means this wasn't a few bad apples at one DMV office. This was built into the system. It was policy, and here's the kicker. The audit found licenses that extended beyond driver's work permits. Think about that. A foreign driver's work authorization expires, but California's DMV let them keep driving anyway. Their legal right to work in this country ran out, but they still had a valid CDL in their pocket. How does that happen unless someone deliberately programmed the system to ignore expiration dates? Now, California's response to all this is where it gets really insulting. State officials came out and said, well, actually, these drivers all had legal presence and work authorization confirmed by the federal government. We didn't break any laws. The violations were just of state laws that predated the new Trump administration rules. Let me translate that for you. California is saying, yes, we issued these licenses, and yes, they don't meet the current federal standards, but that's not our fault because the rules changed. Except the DOT audit disagrees. The DOT says California admitted to breaking the law, not bending the rules, not interpreting regulations differently, breaking the law, and now 17,000 drivers are getting letters in the mail saying you have 60 days before your CDL expires. I want you to imagine getting that letter. You're a driver who went through California's system. You provided whatever documents they asked for. You passed whatever tests they required. You paid your fees. You did everything the state told you to do. And now the federal government says, actually, that license you've been driving on isn't valid. We're canceling it. 60 days. And it's not your fault. You didn't lie on your application. You didn't forge documents. California issued you a license under a system that the feds now say was illegal. But you're the one who loses your job. You're the one who can't make truck payments. You're the one who can't feed your family. California's DMV bureaucrats keep their jobs and their pensions, but you're done. And where's the accountability? Who at the California DMV is getting fired over this? Who's going to prison for systematically violating federal law? Nobody. Not one person. The state will fight the federal government in court. They'll drag this out for months. They'll spend millions of taxpayer dollars on lawyers. And at the end of it, even if California loses, the bureaucrats who designed this system will walk away clean. But those 17,000 drivers are out of work right now. Today, they can't wait for the courts to decide who was right. Now let's talk about what this means for you, because even if you're a US citizen with a CDL that's totally legit, this affects you. You know how hard it's been to find good paying loads? You know how many companies are cutting rates? You know why that's happening? It's because the market is flooded with drivers. When you artificially increase the supply of CDL holders by issuing 17,000 licenses that shouldn't exist, you drive down wages for everyone. It's basic economics. More drivers competing for the same freight means companies can pay less. And who suffers? The American driver who did everything right. The guy who's been running clean for 20 years. The owner, operator who's trying to make a truck payment and support a family. That guy gets undercut by drivers who shouldn't have been on the road in the first place. And let's talk about safety for a minute, because that's what the CDL program is supposed to be about. You get a commercial driver's license after proving you can safely operate an 80,000-pound vehicle at highway speeds around civilians who have no idea what you're doing. That license says you met a minimum standard of competency. But if California's issuing licenses without verifying documents, without checking work permits, without following federal standards, what does that license mean anymore? How do we know those 17,000 drivers actually passed legitimate tests? How do we know they can read English road signs? How do we know they understand hours of service regulations? We don't. California couldn't even prove they checked lawful presence in some cases. You think they were rigorous about testing? Here's what really gets me. You and I both know what happens when we make a mistake out here. We miss a logbook entry, we get a violation. We're a few pounds overweight at a scale, we get a fine. We've got a marker light out, we get put out of service. We've got a marker light out, we get put out of service. The system treats us like criminals for the smallest infractions, but a state government can systematically issue 17,000 illegal commercial driver's licenses, and what happens? A strongly worded letter from the DOT, a threat to withhold funding, maybe eventually the licenses get canceled. But where are the handcuffs? Where's the perp walk? Where's the accountability? And I'll tell you what else bothers me. This is California we're talking about. The same state that just passed AB 5 trying to eliminate independent owner-operators. The same state that has environmental regulations making it nearly impossible to run an older truck. The same state that treats truckers like we're the problem every single day. But when it comes to handing out CDLs to foreign drivers who don't meet federal standards, suddenly California's all about keeping the industry running. Suddenly they don't care about regulations or safety or protecting American workers. They'll bust your chops over every little thing, but they'll rubber stamp 17,000 licenses that violate federal law. The Transportation Secretary gave California an ultimatum: cancel all non-compliant licenses or lose $160 million in federal funding. And honestly, I don't think California is going to do it. I think they're going to fight this in court. I think they're going to claim the federal government is overstepping. I think they're going to drag this out until a judge forces their hand. And in the meantime, those 17,000 drivers are in limbo. Some of them probably already got pulled over and had their CDL flagged in the system. Some of them probably already lost their jobs. And California doesn't care because it's not their problem anymore. They passed the buck to the feds. You want to know why drivers are fed up? This is why. This right here. We play by the rules. We do everything we're told. We pay our fees. We take our physicals. We update our med cards. We log every mile. We scale every load. We pre-trip every morning. And the system still finds a way to jam us up. But the people who are supposed to regulate the industry can break federal law for years and nobody goes to jail. The double standard is so obvious, it's insulting. And let me tell you what's going to happen next, because we've seen this movie before. California is going to claim this is about discrimination. They're going to say the federal government is targeting immigrant drivers. They're going to make this political. And the media is going to run with that narrative because it's easier than explaining that California broke federal law. Nobody's going to talk about the American drivers who got squeezed out of the market. Nobody's going to talk about the safety implications of issuing licenses without verifying documents. Nobody's going to talk about the fact that if you or I had issued fake CDLs, we'd be in federal prison right now. It's going to become a story about mean Trump administration picking on California. But here's the reality. Federal law exists for a reason. CDL standards exist for a reason. And states don't get to pick and choose which laws they follow. If California wants to issue driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants, that's a state decision. But a commercial driver's license is a federal credential. It's regulated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. It's governed by federal law. And California knew that when they set up this program, they knew they were violating federal standards. They did it anyway. And now they're mad that they got caught. 17,000 drivers just found out their license is invalid. That's 17,000 people who can't work, can't make money, can't support their families. And California's response is to shrug and say, it's not our fault, the rules changed. That's unacceptable. Those drivers trusted the state to issue them a valid credential. The state failed them. And now those drivers are paying the price while the bureaucrats who created this mess face zero consequences. So what's the takeaway here? The system is broken and it's rigged against working drivers. Whether you're American or foreign, citizen or immigrant, if you're the guy behind the wheel, you're expendable. You're a number. You're a revenue source. And when the government screws up, you're the one who pays. Not the politicians, not the regulators, not the DMV administrators. You. Always you. And that's why drivers are angry. That's why we're tired. That's why when we see a story like this, we're not surprised anymore. We're just disappointed that it keeps happening and nothing ever changes. California issued 17,000 illegal CDLs. The feds caught them, and the only people who will suffer real consequences are the drivers who trusted the system. That's your industry right there. That's what we deal with every single day. And until there's real accountability for the people who make these decisions, nothing's going to change. If this makes you as angry as it makes me, let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you think there needs to be consequences for California's DMV, and subscribe because we're going to keep covering this story as it develops. I'm Young Diesel, and I'll see you in the next one.